Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host tonight. My name is Nick Walsh. I'm here with my good friend, my pal, my confidant. I'm here with Vinny Gonzalez. What's up, dude?
What's up, Walsh? It's good to be here.
How many times in the past year have you been called a confidant?
Just once, just now, and it felt weird but good.
Okay, cool. That's what I was going for. I think I don't know really, but anyway, Vinny, it's good to be here with you, fresh off of our mock draft podcast that we recorded the other day. That mock draft is also going to be in our draft guide, which will be hitting your emails if you've joined our email list this weekend. And if you haven't joined our email list, you better do that because otherwise you're not going to get a draft guide. And if you're not going to get a draft guide, you're not going to have access to our full mock draft, thoughts on all of our draft strategies going into this year, our rankings. There's going to be a lot of good material in there. Definitely worth your time. Definitely worth the read. Definitely worth signing up for that email list. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Guys, I also just want to mention before we go any further that Let's Talk Fantasy Football is sponsored by No Halftime. The No Halftime app isn't your typical fantasy sports service. You get to create one-on-one fantasy matchups, and you can use that code LTFF for a free sign-up bonus. So, Vinny, since we didn't really get to talk about week one of the preseason too much earlier this week, we were too busy doing our mock draft, talking about our picks. We're going to talk about some of that tonight. We're going to run through some nuggets, some stuff from the first week. There's not too much you can really parse from the first week, but we're going to try to fucking do it. Vinny, you got anything to say about that?
No, man. I mean, I'm just glad football's back, and trying to, decipher preseason is always very tricky, but let's run it down the first week.
Yeah, man. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to about our mock drafts, about strategies that we thought worked, about just general strategy and stuff in general. We're not going to really have too much of a form or an order to this podcast. We're just going to try and flow through some stuff and hope you guys enjoy it. And if you don't, suck it, dude. Like, why wouldn't you enjoy it? It's going to be sweet. Anyway, all right, Vinny, let's get right into it. So the first preseason game, and honestly, we're going to do this in order of games, but it's kind of just even some of it is just going to be news, not even stuff about the game. So preseason game, Redskins at Falcons. The one thing I wrote down here was that Chris Thompson is definitely the passing down back. He was in on all the third downs instead of Matt Jones. Does that make him interesting to you? I'm looking back. I don't think he got drafted in our mock draft, actually.
Yeah, I don't believe he got drafted, and I'm trying to find his AD. I don't think he has an ADP either right now.
No, I'm pretty sure he does. I thought it was super late. Let me take.
I was gonna say if he does, it's after 50. That's where mine ends on the page.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a little interesting.
No ADP in 12 team.
Yeah.
So how about that?
Yeah.
There's if he's going to be the passing down back on this team, and we do think they're going to throw the ball a lot, right? This offense is going to run through Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And they have a great wide receiver core. And if Chris Thompson's going to be out there on third downs, that's going to have some value, and it's worth a late round flyer. Especially if he's not getting drafted, he can be your last pick before a kicker in defense. So that's a huge value right there.
Yeah, this is a guy who in games where the Redskins are down has a legitimate chance to be a top 24 running back in PPR leagues, not overall, but on certain weeks, if you think the Redskins are going to be losing, going to have to pass a lot late in the game, Chris Thompson is a guy who you probably can start some weeks and get away with it, even if it's just a bye week fill-in. He's not going to he's not going to propel you to a win, but in a PPR league, if you can just rip 11 points out of Chris Thompson for 5 catches for 60 yards because they were down a lot, cool, man. That'll get the job done. All right. The Falcons, other than that, it seems like they split snaps between Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman on the first team. I think it was 10-8. Both of them got a little bit of third down work, and Devontae Freeman got the goal line work. Is that Freeman's going really high? 10-8 snaps with the first team isn't much of a difference. Goal line work definitely makes a difference, but what's your take on that?
Freeman's definitely been one of the guys that's been very hard to gauge for me this season. And he's going pretty late in the second, so I don't really mind it. I mean, the Falcons offense can get going at times, and when he's down at the goal line, he'll be getting the work. So I kind of like where Freeman's going. I'm starting to warm up to him, but the split is definitely concerning. But how many running backs are in a running back by committee? So it's not terrible.
All right, fair enough. I like Coleman a lot. He's like one of those guys because I've talked about it all summer, I think, but like I'm doing a lot of like draft a ton of wide receivers early and then just like load the hell up on running backs throughout mid rounds. And Coleman is one of those guys I find myself targeting a lot just because he's a guy that if Freeman gets hurt, all of a sudden he's most likely the bell cow back on a team. So it's a situation where he's got a role and he's got some upside for more. Let's move on to the Bucks at the Eagles. We don't really have any news here for the Bucks, but the Eagles just got DGB. Does this turn the needle for this year at all?
Yeah, not really. He's gonna have to learn like the whole new offense for the Eagles. So, and like work ethic has always been the issue. So we'll see if that truly matters. But DGB can be good if he just, gets his shit straight. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm not really big into DGB really.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And if you have him in Dynasty, like hold on to him, I guess, because his value is so low right now. There's no point in selling him. But like this year, like the whole thing with the Titans was he couldn't pick up the offense, and like why would he now be able to pick up the offense on a new team in like 3 weeks before the season starts? So DGB is officially off the radar for this year. At least for drafts. Wendell Smallwood tonight. We're recording this, by the way, as the second week of preseason is starting. So there's a couple nuggets in here that we have from this week, but mostly we're just going to be talking about last week. One of those nuggets from this week is Wendell Smallwood inactive for the second straight week. Rumors he could lose duties to Kenyon Barner. He's a guy Rodgers and I both like, but if he's hurt all preseason, he's not worth drafting.
Yeah, you said it.
All right. The Panthers played the Ravens last week. One Ravens note, I guess, Mike Wallace has been getting talked up as a starter. Joe Flacco says he could be a big weapon for them. Not really don't overreact to it, but like Mike Wallace is going very late right now. So like if you're in the situation where you're looking at your list and like Mike Wallace is the number one guy there, don't be afraid. Also, unfortunately, because I really like this guy a ton this year, Devin Funchess on the first team in their first week played behind Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn was at the number 2 wide receiver slot. And actually Brenton Burson, the little white guy, played in the slot. Funchess played mostly with the second team. Are you buying that Funchess is a backup on this team?
That one kind of threw me off. I mean, we were talking about how I was surprised that Ginn wasn't getting drafted, and Funchess is a sleeper on a lot of people's radars. So this is pretty concerning. I don't know if I'm officially buying. I want to see a few more games out of the Panthers to see what's going on there. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on, because if Funchess isn't going to be, getting as much playing time as we think he is, it's going to be rough for him to turn back the value when you draft him.
Yeah, I mean, when we did it was you and me who talked about the Panthers, right? Yeah. Yep. Like I'm pretty sure I said I think Funchess could be the number 1 receiver in the offense by the end of the year. And that does not appear to be the case right now. So, yeah, keep an eye on it in the preseason. It's a little worrisome for me. It's a little unfortunate because he's a guy I really liked going into the offseason, particularly where he's being drafted. But what can you do? Not much. Yeah. Not really much.
We didn't put this down, but the Ravens' backfield kind of went nuts.
Yeah, and, Kenneth Dixon was really good, right?
Everybody was really good. Forsett had a bunch of yards. West had those 2 touchdowns that were insane. I forget who got the start. But, yeah, they all had solid workloads and, turned back some yards on every opportunity they got. So it just makes it more confusing, and we're just going to have to continue to wait and see.
I love to be confused by the Ravens because that's what's constantly happening to me this year.
Especially their backfield.
I'm just going to draft Joe Flacco in the 16th round of every draft and love it. Anyway, Let's talk about the Saints and the Patriots. The Patriots, like whatever, Garoppolo played. Malcolm Mitchell actually played really well, which I guess keep an eye on it at wide receiver. But for the Saints, Michael Thomas made some nice catches, like some highlight reel catches. I think he had like 5 of them. Is like there any reason to be like pumped up enough to draft Michael Thomas? Like, is he going to eat into Snead and Cooks' work or maybe into Kobe Fleener's work? I don't know what to make of it yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to kind of stay away and temper my expectations there because it's just there's not going to be enough targets to go around to everybody in that offense, like you just said. Fleener, Cooks, Snead, and even Mark Ingram's going to get some stuff. So it's going to be rough to compete for targets in that offense. But Mike Thomas looks pretty good right now, but where he's getting drafted, I don't know. You probably look for some other values.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? I was going to talk about this later when we were talking about strategy, but like we don't have a real set anything for this podcast, so I'm going to talk about it right now.
Go ahead.
Is there a reason that Mark Ingram like shouldn't be a top 5 running back off the board?
Dude, absolutely not. I don't get it. I've been taking him like high as shit in like a lot of mocks. I think he went really high to Matt in our mock.
Matt took him as the 6th running back off the board behind Gurley, David Johnson, Lamar Miller, AP, Zeke, and then Le'Veon Bell. But
right. And in front of Jamal Charles.
Yeah, and like I think that's right. Like, hear me out on this.
Right. No, it's definitely right.
I feel there's a lot of concerns about like each guy. Like Gurley doesn't get the passing down work, or he didn't last year. AP doesn't get the passing down work. David Johnson might have stuff stolen from him from Chris Johnson. Zeke is a rookie. Like, is there anyone who's more of like a sure thing in the top 10 running backs to like really be a top 10 producer than Mark Ingram as like stay like with health? And I mean like producer like week to week, like this is a guy who like last year he caught a bunch of passes. So like he's not game script dependent anymore. Like Gurley's game script dependent. AP's game script dependent. Like I said, Ezekiel Elliott's a rookie. Le'Veon Bell's suspended for the first 4 games. Lamar Miller's on a new team, which is sometimes hard to project. David Johnson is small sample size. Chris Johnson could eat into some work. Jamal Charles coming off injury. Like Mark Ingram, if he stays healthy, is like a fucking sure thing.
Yep. And he's going at a huge value in drafts, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it because basically everything you just said in that rant. But yeah, Mark Ingram's fucking awesome, and he should be getting drafted higher. And I don't know if we're going to touch on it later, but Eddie Lacy's, I think, in the same boat. Like, he had a rough year last year, but he's still fucking like a lock. He's a lock. I took him with the first pick last year, and it just didn't pan out and really fucked me. But still, Eddie Lacy is still Eddie Lacy. He's on a high dynamic offense, just like Mark Ingram is on the Saints. Both of those dudes are undervalued in a very volatile, like, running back market, especially with all the reasons that you said before with the top 5 guys that are going. So it's very confusing, but they're both huge values.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. But anyway, I guess we'll get off of our quick aside there and back to some preseason action. The Jaguars played at the Jets. Yeldon and Ivory split the first team reps. I think it was actually 9-9, or maybe it was 9-10 in terms of snaps with the first team. Ivory got the goal line work. This is exactly what we expected that backfield to be, and it makes me not like either of them.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge because if you like Ivory, you're just banking on him getting a lot of touchdowns. If you like Yeldon, you expect him to gash defenses in between the 20s. So I guess it's all on preference. They're going both pretty late, TJ Yeldon especially late. He's going running back 41 at the beginning of the 9th, and Chris Ivory's going late in the 7th. So
that's okay, actually.
Yeah, it's okay for both of them. And it just really matters how you want to play it and how your team shakes out because they're both going kind of when you're in a little bit of hot water with some, like if you're in trouble with running back or you just need some more depth. Both those guys will be floating around there, and I think they're both nice values.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, they're going so late, I guess. That, like it's probably okay.
It's safe to say you don't have to reach on either of these guys.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people are shying away from both of them, and again, for good reason to a certain extent. But like TJ Yeldon is going behind Derrick Henry and Tevin Coleman, so like that's okay. Yeah, all right, cool. I said that like when I wasn't really looking at their ADPs. I just like, unless one of them gets hurt, I just don't know when I'm going to want to play either one of them is the thing, unless like the Jaguars offense is really, really good and kind of just like goes through those guys. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. So I don't know. It's guys to stash on your bench, but don't plan on starting them early in the year or anything like that.
Yeah, they're good for depth.
Yeah. All right. The Broncos played the Bears. Jay Cutler had 10 snaps, and Jeremy Langford was in for all 10 of them. The whole rumor here, I mean, like, the Bears were pretty ineffective in the run game, but it is the Broncos as well. So, like, whatever, I guess.
They got wrecked, too.
Yeah, they got fucked up. The whole rumor is that, Jordan Howard and Kenyon Carey were going to like take this work from Langford, and like Langford isn't that good and like whatever else. But if Langford's going to be like the clear-cut number one there, and his ADP has dropped like he's just been on a steady downstroke to the point where he's now back end of the 5th round as a guy who's, if indications from the first preseason game are anything, is going to be the primary back. He's going to be the guy there, at least to start the season. He's like slowly become one of those guys that I'm ending up with more and more just because of how much he's dropping.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because I think we didn't do that podcast, but we've talked about Langford and how we hated him because he was going like, I think in the 3rd.
Yeah.
Like really, really high. And now he's reached that point where his kind of ADP has corrected itself almost because people are so off him. And it's flipped, and now he's a value because going that late is perfect. He's going after Duke Johnson and Matt Jones and Arian Foster. I'll gladly take Langford there.
Yeah, I actually ended up taking him with the first pick in the 5th round in our mock on Tuesday. So I guess, that is what it is. His ADP is the back end of the 5th. I took him before a couple guys that really are going ahead of him normally, though. So, again, it is what it is, but I'm starting to come around on Langford based on price.
Yep.
And then also, again, kind of confirming what we knew, Devontae Booker is ahead of Ronnie Hillman for the number 2 spot in Denver. He's the handcuff, not Hillman.
Correct.
All right, man. Lions at Steelers. This wasn't like a game note or anything, but like Stafford, according to all reports, has great chemistry with Marvin Jones. And I wanted to talk about that because I love Marvin Jones this year. I don't know. Does this make you like him anymore, or is it still just kind of like the steady drumbeat of like Marvin Jones is good and is going to be good this year?
Yeah, I think Marvin Jones has a lot of value, and he's going still really late, kind of like unfairly late. And he presents a lot of value, especially in that offense where Stafford's going to be chucking that ball around. So, and he had that sweet catch on the sideline. That was really awesome. And that was in the first drive with Stafford. So they looked really good together, and Jones is going to have a ton of value if you grab him draft day late.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the Steelers side of the ball, Sammy Coates really seemed like primed to like take the Martavis Bryant role, really. He had 2 fumbles, dropped the screen pass, like not good. DHB actually caught like a deep pass, I think, but then like they're playing again tonight and DHB dropped like a big one. I don't know, like this is like the Steelers with like this and the Ladarius Green news that like if in case any of you guys missed it, like Ladarius Green apparently is having like headaches and like basically like long-term concussion type syndromes. Or not syndromes, symptoms rather. Syndromes, Jesus. Like the Steelers, like is Marcus Wheaton going to have to be the guy? Like is DHB going to have to be the guy? Or is this just Sammy Coates kind of shaking off some rust?
They're quietly becoming like a mess, like in front of us, because if they lose Ladarius Green, that's going to be huge. They're trying to fill Martavis Bryant, like his position, and that doesn't seem to be working. I think Marcus Wheaton's going to start being a thing. I definitely like him over Sammy Coates, especially after that disaster. DHB, I'm not buying for shit. I wanted to see what you thought. Because I know you're very avid, like, no, Marcus Wheaton sucks a lot kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's good, but like I think he had usable games last year. And like I really like one of my prevailing beliefs in the NFL is that Ben Roethlisberger is an extremely good quarterback. And And so if I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to be good this year, then I have to think someone more than just Antonio Brown is going to be a good pass catcher on the team. If it's not going to be Sammy Coates or DHB, it basically has to be Marcus Wheaton there. But if it's not going to be Marcus Wheaton because he sucks, then it has to be Sammy Coates. Or Antonio Brown is going to set every record ever this year.
that could totally happen.
That's also possible. They just target him like 20 times a game.
Also, when Bell gets back, if he really serves the whole 4 game, like he is going to get targeted like crazy.
Oh yeah, Le'Veon Bell is going to, like, when he gets back, he is going to start murdering everything, people, football, entities, whatever it may be. He's just going to murder everything. But yeah, I guess it's something to keep an eye on, just like the Steelers receivers going forward, because you'd think someone has to step up into that role. Let's move on to Dolphins at Giants. Sterling Shepard had a nice grab. That's cool. I like him a lot. You like him a lot? I forget.
I was not loving him as much as you were, certainly at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, he'll be okay, I think.
All right. That was like tepid as hell, but all right. I like Sterling Shepard.
I'm staying away. I was very bullish on that, but yeah, I'm staying away.
That's fair. This is another one where, like, I think the Giants' offense is going to be pretty good, and like it can't all be Beckham, so I guess some of it has to be Shepard. I don't know.
Right.
Dolphins look real bad. Running game looks bad. Is Arian Foster going to fix this? Is Jay Ajayi a guy you can draft at all?
Jay Ajayi is really worrying me because I thought he was a value, but like the Dolphins don't want to use him or like him. I don't know. They have like some kind of deal over there where they don't want to use their running backs. Like they send Lamar Miller away. They won't use Jay Ajayi, who's like got a timetable on his career.
Let's draft young, talented running backs and then misuse them for the entire time they're under contract.
Yeah. Like it makes no sense. And then they take Arian Foster, who they love apparently, and they think he's going to be the duct tape for this team, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, man. I don't know there. This is the Dolphins are outside of Landry, probably the Dolphins are like kind of starting to become a big stay away from for me. Yep. And speaking of Landry, what a fucking segue, Walsh. Good job, dude. Adam Gase stated in an interview that Jarvis Landry has basically like been the guy. Like Ryan Tannehill loves him. He's constantly open. Even when he's not open, Tannehill wants to get him the ball because he loves him so much. Like I said in our Dolphins podcast, I think, or was it? I don't remember. I remember saying on a podcast, I don't know if it was the Dolphins one, that I thought this could be the year that Devontae Parker emerges. But all signs so far point to Jarvis Landry continuing to just eat targets in that offense.
Yeah, and I think – I don't remember if you were on the podcast, but I was like loving Landry. I still do, and I think he's going late, like way too late. Another undervalued guy. He's going to get possibly like 90 to 100 catches this season, just like last season. Like it's just going to happen. They're on a bad team, like you said. Tannehill loves him. They're just going to keep throwing it to him. So at the very least, he's going to have an awesome PPR season, and it's going to shake out that way.
Yeah, he's going to be extremely consistent for you. You know what you're getting. Like you're not getting the potential for like 40-point games where like Antonio Brown like could get you that in full point PPR leagues on some weeks, but like you're getting a very consistent guy who you can rely on for X amount of points each week. Vikings played the Bengals. On the Vikings side, Treadwell didn't start. Charles Johnson did. He actually caught a touchdown, I believe. Is there any reason to look into Charles Johnson, or is it more of just like a don't draft Treadwell?
I probably would lean more towards don't draft Treadwell and kind of see how the Vikings core kind of pans out there. I think Diggs is definitely going to be a thing, but like Treadwell and Johnson, I don't think there's enough to invest there for a draft pick.
Okay, fair enough. I would agree with that. On the Bengals side of the ball, Tyler Boyd had a 40-yard touchdown catch, something like that?
That happened tonight, and it was 20 yards.
I thought last week he had one too, didn't he?
No. That game was actually awful.
Okay.
It was – but yeah, he had a good catch. It was like a another 20 yarder or something like that. But it was longer than that. But it was very nice.
Okay. The issue there was that Boyd played exclusively in the slot, and they started Brandon Tate at the other outside receiver across from freaking AJ Green. Brandon Tate ahead of Brandon LaFell. Like when I read that, my brain immediately processed it as Brandon LaFell. And then like I read through again and I was like, no, that says Brandon Tate. Like I just thought it said LaFell because I assumed it.
Well, LaFell is going to have surgery on his hand, so he's going to miss the rest of the preseason. So it's pretty much up to Tate and Boyd to kind of figure out who's going to be the number 2. It's probably going to be Boyd. Like there's probably no chance it's going to be Brandon Tate. He's not that great. And they drafted Boyd to be there too eventually. So it's just going to have to, he's going to have to quicken the pace there and kind of get more adapted.
Fair enough. I'm just a little concerned because, like I said, they only played him in the slot, and they only, like in the snaps that Andy Dalton was in there, they only had 3 wide receivers on the field 25% of the time. So that's a little worrying, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll see what tonight does there. All right, and then last game before we take a quick break, Browns at Packers. Jeff Janis fractured his hand, so the dream is probably ending. He's going to be back. Well, he's going to be back for the season, but he's not going to have the preseason reps. Jeff Janis doesn't have a chance to win the job, so he's not going to get the job. It's probably going to be Devontae Adams. Or I want to see how you feel about Ty Montgomery because no one's drafting him at all. And, he was kind of good last year. What if he wins the job? Is that, am I just, getting, way too cute there?
Possibly. I think that's probably a situation I would wait during the season, like a late pickup or something like that, maybe early on if he has some good games. But other than that, I'm probably going to stay away from that situation. Okay,
fair enough. And then Terrell Pryor running with the starters for the Bengals. Running with the Browns, sorry. Running with the starters is loose because I think a couple of people didn't play. I know tonight Corey Coleman didn't play. First game, 10-yard touchdown catch. Tonight, right before we started recording, Terrell Pryor caught a 50-yard touchdown where he basically just took Desmond Trufant, who's a pretty good cornerback.
Yeah, he's very solid. Yeah.
And Pryor basically just took him up the sidelines, beat him down the sideline, and Griffin hit him on a long throw for a touchdown. Is Terrell Pryor a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's definitely more of a thing in the Browns passing game than Corey Coleman is. He's getting drafted way ahead of Pryor. So go out there and get yourself some Terrell Pryor really late, and it just might work for whatever fucking reason.
Yeah, I took him in the 13th round of this mock that we did. And it was the last pick of the 13th round that I took him. That in this mock that we did the other night. I think it's you're getting him in that range. If he keeps moving up and up the draft board, obviously pump the brakes. But at this point, you're getting Terrell Pryor exactly where you want him as that late round, why the hell not type pick. So yeah, Vinny and I are both behind the late round Terrell Pryor pick. If nothing else, it's fun. It'll make you it'll give you an adrenaline rush. You get to the end of the draft and you feel like you're getting away with something you shouldn't have been able to get away with. It's it's sneaky. I don't know, but
stealing.
Yeah, you're stealing Terrell Pryor from the rest of the league, and he's gonna win a championship for you. No, probably not. I don't want to guarantee that. All right, Vinny, let's take a quick break. All right, guys, that was no halftime. They are our wonderful sponsors, and you should definitely download their app, check it out. Vinny and I will be playing on it during the season. So, go on there, have some fun. Let's go run through the rest of these games and then just talk a little bit about some strategy and stuff to close this out. Raiders played the Cardinals. Latavius Murray got all the first-team snaps. But DeAndre Washington looked very good in his backup role and has basically solidified himself as the number 2 if he wasn't already. I'm starting to get higher and higher on both of these guys as the more time that goes on. I was very skeptical on both, and I'm getting more and more confident. What's your opinion on them?
Yeah, I think Murray's one of the more solid running backs you can get a little later. I think he's floating around the early
Fourth
fourth.
round.
Yeah, and then Washington's like that cool late flyer like Charles Sims or like we mentioned before with Chris Thompson. They have the same kind of appeal, like the passing down work kind of back. So they're gonna Washington's gonna have some kind of value, and I think Murray's one of the better running backs that you can kind of bank on later on if you stack up wide receivers early.
Yeah, Murray's a great guy to for example, I love taking 3 wide receivers right off the bat, sometimes 4 wide receivers. Murray's a guy who you can get in the 4th round who like isn't a bad choice there just because he's going to get a lot of volume in that offense. The other thing that was interesting there was Derek Carr was they had him throwing the ball downfield, which generally in the preseason teams just don't do that as much because the starters, they're not trying to have them take 7-step drops and then get like plowed by a defensive end and get hurt. And the backups like to check down because they're backup quarterbacks for a reason. So just an interesting thing there. Carr was kind of, looking to stretch the field. To me, it seems like the Raiders could be lining up to be one of those teams where, their pass game is significant downfield attacks. And they run the ball significantly more than they pass it, which would be interesting to me. I like it, and I think it's good for Amari Cooper's value because he makes his hay down the field more so than as a possession guy.
I was gonna say, you saying that probably boosts Cooper up a little bit and knocks Crabtree down a little bit more because Crabtree's kind of the possession kind of guy there. So that's very interesting. I kind of want to see the Raiders a few more times.
Yeah, definitely. They're playing right now. I'm recording the game, so I'm probably going to try and watch a little bit of it afterwards.
Nice.
But the Seahawks played the Chief. Spencer Ware played ahead of Charcandrick West. I kind of talked about this on our Chiefs podcast that Spencer Ware was probably the better draft pick, even though he's going behind West. I think not that like the first game of the preseason confirms anything, but like I feel like this should confirm it. Like Spencer Ware is their backup.
Yes, definitely.
So don't take West ahead of Spencer Ware, basically, is the lesson we learned there. Then on the Seahawks side, Christine Michael looked good, 7 carries for 44 yards. And then afterwards, Pete Carroll calls Rawls and Michael, quote, a little 1-2 punch we are really excited about. So here's the thing. Are these guys both going to get early down work and then Procise is going to get third down work? Because if so, I don't want any of them.
Yeah, I was just going to say, all this does is ruin everybody's value, regardless of Christine Michael being a thing, which I think he's slowly becoming one. Like, all this does is make everybody way more unappealing. I think the person with the most guaranteed work there is CJ Procise, and that fucking sucks. So I'm going to, like you said, stay away from both of them. And Rawls getting drafted where he is just borderline unacceptable at this point.
Yeah, I can't draft Rawls where he is. If I'm going to draft anyone in that offense, it's probably Christine Michael, and it's probably really late. But it's something. Just keep an eye on it again through the preseason, see what happens. But Christine Michael might finally be a thing this year. Colts played the Bills. The interesting thing from this for me was that Mike Gillislee played directly behind LaShawn McCoy and then didn't play after the first quarter. So that's like the kind of thing where the guys do you rest after the first quarter are the guys that, are guys you think are going to be parts of the offense. So Mike Gillislee looks like the backup right now behind LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, for sure. And he'll just be the backup. Nothing. I don't really see him eating into McCoy's play time or anything. So yeah, that's pretty much the case there. McCoy's the guy, and Gillislee's going to back him up.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, like it's he's not really getting drafted right now, but like McCoy hasn't exactly been the picture of health throughout his career. So just keep an eye on the situation, monitor it going forward. Cowboys at Rams. Dez looked like Dez. I'm throwing up the X currently.
Yes.
Dez caught both of his targets for 28 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was just like vintage Dez, where it's just like throw it in his direction on the goal line, and he's just like, get off me, you pussy, to the cornerback, and just goes up and catches the ball, just like Dennis Rodman in the GD paint. And he it just felt so good watching it. It really did.
Yeah, having Dez back is awesome because him out for and then like being a shell of himself for the rest of the season was just a fucking shame. And
Yeah, man.
Dez is a monster.
Yeah, Dez like so the thing with Dez and like I made like a big error in process last year talking him up as like should be the number one pick because he just doesn't get the target volume to be in the same level as like those other guys like Julio and Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham. But like Dez is probably going to lead the league in touchdown catches this year, uh, just because he's like so good at doing that one thing. Just like in the end zone, it's just like throw me the ball and I'm going to get everyone else the hell off of me and go get it.
Absolutely.
Dak Prescott also looked very good, 10 for 12, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of them to Terrence Williams. This is nice because it gives you a little confidence if Romo gets hurt that it won't completely screw everything up.
Correct. Don't read too much into Prescott being awesome, but it's definitely more reassuring.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're into the home stretch here. 2 more games, and then we're going to do a little bit of strategy talk. Chargers at Titans. The Chargers, Melvin Gordon caught a 44-yard swing pass. Caught a swing pass, took it 44 yards for a touchdown. Cool, good. He didn't have a touchdown all of last year, including the preseason. It's his first NFL touchdown. Good for you, Melvin. They weren't in the red zone when them and Woodhead were both playing. So we don't know what the red zone usage is going to be, and that worries me. I think Gordon's ADP is going to increase because, hey, he got a touchdown, like, cool. But, like, right. We knew Melvin Gordon could break big plays because that's literally all he did in college. Like, to me, this doesn't tell me anything I didn't already know.
Right. Last year just might have been unlucky, or he just might have been in. Like, it's just you don't know what's happening, but his ADP is perfect, and it's like you take him and you're just like, all right, this might pan out. It might not. I kind of know what I'm getting. So if you're going to do it, you know what you're doing at that point.
Yeah, I really hope he doesn't start to move up significantly. Right now, he's beginning of the 7th round in 12-team PPR. Like, that's completely cool with me. But he's actually, since that first preseason game, he's gone from back end of the 7th round to front end of the 7th round. So, just keep an eye on his ADP. You don't want to start reaching on Melvin Gordon in rounds where you can, really take advantage of other guys there. But he's probably going to be pretty good this year.
Yes.
Both running backs for the Titans broke long runs, got in the end zone. Is this giving you any confidence in the Titans running back situation?
So I need to talk to you about this because I am blinded by my love for DeMarco Murray, and I just was going nuts because he broke that huge run, and I was like, yes, Murray's back. But it's like after the dust settled and now I had like a week to like process everything that happened, they both just kind of wrecked like a really bad Chargers defense in preseason. So I want to see what you think about both those guys because now that I've had time to think about it, this might be one of the more annoying running back by committees to think about going forward into the season. Like they're both good, but can they both be good constantly like throughout the season? Probably not. And it's probably going to go back and forth and be a little annoying.
Yeah, I need a couple more weeks of this because, like you said, it's the Chargers defense in the preseason. And then also, again, I know this is against the Chargers backups, but like Bishop Sankey came in and also proceeded to just like rip
right.
it up. Just like so like if Bishop Sankey is in there just like killing it, like all right, maybe this isn't as impressive as we initially thought.
Yeah. Joey Bosa sitting at home smiling, just like pay me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's so weird. Such a weird situation. But
he's a dick, but they really need him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think like I don't like what's your leverage there? But anyway,
he has zero leverage. I think Gates was like man the fuck up and play football and then get paid.
Yeah,
which makes complete sense.
It was like someone like his girlfriend or like his mom or something.
It's his mom.
Yeah, it was like we should have done what Eli Manning did and like forced a trade. So, oh yeah, you as like not the first overall pick and a fucking defensive end are gonna force this trade. You're gonna do what only John Elway and Eli Manning have ever done, and use your leverage as a GD top 10 defensive end. Oh man, unbelievable. But
Eli got drafted by the Chargers. Hey, my son got drafted by the Chargers. Let's hold out.
Yeah, so dumb, so dumb. All right, so then moving on there, I guess we should talk about it with DGB leaving. Does that make you like higher on Richard Matthews or Tajay Sharp or Kendall Wright?
I think it has to make you higher on their commitment to like the first two guys. I know Kendall Wright's probably going to be the slot and very Kendall Wrighty for the rest of the season, for lack of a better term.
No, that's the exact right term to describe him.
So yeah, I'm starting to come around to like Richard Matthews and oh my god, I forgot his fucking name. You just said
Tajay Sharp.
Tajay Sharp, sorry. Yeah, and I know Don took him. Don didn't have the greatest teams, but he took Tajay Sharp pretty late, and I thought that was a nice value of where he should be getting taken. But yeah, you got to look at the value those guys could have. They're not going to pass a whole lot. That's the only thing. But they are going to be the 1 and 2, and that's going to present fantasy value. So keep an eye out for that.
I'm coming back around to Delaney Walker too. I've been like off of him the whole offseason, and now I'm kind of like the more tight ends like get crossed off the list, it's like Ladarius Green is going to be on the pup list. Eric Ebron is hurt. You know, it's just like Tyler Eifert. Who knows when he's going to be back? It's like, man, Delaney Walker.
Well, because Delaney's a top 5 tight end, like almost guaranteed this year. It's just like his pricing sucks.
That's he's like the 4th tight end off the board right now, and like he's going pretty early. But like in that mock draft where I took Kobe Fleener, I should have taken Delaney Walker because he was still on the board.
Probably,
yeah. I don't know like what I was really thinking there, but yeah, I
forget who you quoted, but the fall out of bed and have a top 10 tight end season.
Oh yeah, Fleener. Who was it? I think it was Adam Levitan said that. Great writer. If you guys don't follow him, definitely follow him on Twitter and read all of his stuff. But I think his quote was, Kobe Fleener could fall out of bed and have a top 8 tight end season, and like that's probably true. But like Delaney Walker should probably be drafted before him.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All right, last game here. Texans at 49ers. There were a couple of interesting things here. First of all, Lamar Miller looked really good, which was super tight. I was a big fan of that. Second of all, Jalen Strong, who I had kind of said what I thought was like my pick as the guy you should take as a late round flyer in terms of Texans wide receivers, really didn't see the field much with Brock Osweiler on the field. In 3 wide receiver sets, they were more so with Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Braxton Miller. Which is interesting because I didn't think Braxton Miller was going to see the field this early at all. But, you know, they were all in there. It'll be interesting to see if either of those two or if Jalen Strong can regain a position there will become fantasy relevant. But for now, I'm going to pump the brakes on Jalen Strong, whereas before I was kind of looking at him as a late round target.
Yeah, this was a strange one because a lot of beat writers and fantasy analysts were like, you know, singing the praises of Strong, and like it kind of made sense. And then you saw the preseason game, and you're just like, oh, all right, that's not true at all. So we'll see how it shakes out. It's going to be another thing you're going to have to monitor.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought was interesting was they did run a lot of 3 wide receiver, the Texans. So if those two are going to be the next 2 wide receivers, they're going to be on the field a lot. I think Cecil Shorts was also inactive for this game, so we'll see where he comes into play too. But yeah, Cecil. All right. For some reason, that made me think of Canyonero, but I don't know why that came into the head. I watched that episode the other day. It's still so good.
Yes.
But Vance McDonald in that game, he got 2 catches and a touchdown. So like you look at the box score and you're like, oh, Vance McDonald, tight end sleeper. Yeah. What you didn't see was that he only had 9 of the 19 snaps with Blaine Gabbert on the field. The other 10 went to why can't I think of his stupid name? They
have a lot of tight ends though, so it's like not exactly the best situation for like getting invested with Vance McDonald, especially this early in the preseason too.
Yeah, no, exactly. I like if Vance McDonald had been on the field like 15 of those 19 snaps and then got the 2 tight ends or two catches and touchdowns, I would have been like, all right, tight, Vance McDonald, late round sleeper, I'm about it. But like getting less than half the snaps, who was it who got the 10 snaps? It was either Blake Bell or who is their other freaking tight end?
I'm
It's
sorry.
not.
I can't help.
I always think it's Derek Carrier, and it's not. And I'm gonna look it up later and be really mad at myself. You guys know who I'm talking about, though, maybe.
Sort of. I just know that there are a lot of dudes there, and I can't think of all their names. So I'm having a similar problem.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's talk a little bit about Carlos Hyde, because he was used a lot. It's freaking Garrett Selleck.
There you go.
That's who
Okay.
it is. So Garrett Selleck was on the field for 10 snaps. McDonald was on the field for 9. Carlos Hyde was targeted twice on the first drive, which the first drive was 3 plays. So maybe he is going to get used in the pass game. You never know. Sean Drone also did see a little bit of work with the first team, so that's interesting. And then in the 49ers wide receivers side, Quentin Patton, Torrey Smith, and Bruce Ellington were clearly the starters, with Ellington working out of the slot. Ellington's my late round guy who I'm targeting there, but we'll see how that shakes out. Also, Blaine Gabbert looked awful, but still kind of had a nice day statistically due to like the fact that they're just going to run a bunch of offensive plays. And that's why I'm kind of okay with him as a streamer.
Ugh, I don't know about that. And Kaepernick is coming back right now, so we'll see. It's just going to make it more awful to deal with.
I'm going to start Blaine Gabbert at some point this year in potentially multiple leagues, and I'm going to win those games, and then I'm going to laugh at everybody. It's going to be great. It's
Fair enough, Walsh.
probably not true. I'm probably going to lose those games, but I'm still going to do it to prove a point, and then my point will be proven wrong. But anyway.
You sure will, man. You sure will.
Yeah, no. I get real strong-headed like that about stuff. But anyway, that kind of wraps up the games. Let's talk a little bit just about kind of general strategies after this mock draft that we did and what you kind of liked and what you didn't like. So Vinny, talk to me about just like going into the draft. Is it basically just like I'm taking the guy who I think is the best value at any point and we'll see how things shake out? Or are you looking to do something specific?
I always try to go in and stock up on wide receivers, get a quality running back, like a little later, like one that's sliding down, kind of like, Latavius Murray or something like that. Just I want to have top elite talent at wide receiver and then go running back. But I always wind up like just that plan just goes right out the window and I start taking values, which is kind of strange. And I fell into a hole like that while kind of doing our mock draft there because I went with AJ Green early. And as I wrapped around, Le'Veon Bell fell all the way to me at 6. So I took him there. And then I wanted to back him up with another running back so I have someone to at least like plug and play in place of Bell as like my number 1 RB for the team. And took Eddie Lacy. And then another value wrapped around into was Aaron Rodgers because he fell to me in the 4th because we all hate taking quarterbacks early. And then I fell into a hole and I just realized I don't have another like wide receiver and my whole plan was just gone. So a lot of, like it's confusing. Like you got to stick to your plan, but also not let it get too far away from you. If that makes a lot of sense. If that makes any sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like in fairness to you, you kind of like saved that wide receiver position on that team by like really,
stocking up in the middle rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of nice value. Like in the 6th, 7th, and 8th, you took Jordan Matthews, John Brown, and Willie Snead, which I think all of those picks were nice value on all 3 of those guys. And any of them could be starters any given week. So it's sort of a situation where, you can save that kind of situation, even if you find yourself not really like you're like we said, you're like in this getting to the 6th round and you're like, shit, I have 1 wide receiver.
Right.
Like, what do I do? The solution generally is to just like
not
go
panic.
Nuts on that position for the next couple rounds. And like all of a sudden you're doing all right there.
Right. You start to look at your team and you're just like, all right, that might work. Cause like, Jordan Matthews, John Brown, Willie Snead, not very sexy, but could all have good seasons or pan out to at least be like wide receiver 2 numbers for any one of those guys. So in that situation, it kind of worked out. The rule there is do not panic. Like Don did. I hate to throw Don under the bus, but Don panicked huge on one of his teams where he went AP, Allen Robinson, See, Don, I think, made the mistake, or we could talk about this strategy too, where you try and fill positions more so than stock up. Because I think we've talked about this on other drafts too, where if you don't stock up, you're going to be an unbalanced team and you're not going to be good in any category and just kind of be half-assing it and not putting up a lot of points in general when you get to the season. So Don tried to fill out. He took AP, Allen Robinson, Jordan Reed, Cam Newton, and those are all awesome dudes. But then Don has no stockpile for any position, and then he had to kind of grab at straws the rest of the draft. So that's also another mistake people make. Like, I get taking values, but sometimes you have to make sure that you have a loaded position to make sure that you're able to have a lot of depth to continue throughout the entire season.
Yeah, if I end up with like 4 different positions in the first 4 rounds, I know that I fucked up. You know, like that's, I mean, like, I guess there's like some merit to that sort of strategy, but like, I really don't think that's the right way to go. You know, where you're just sort of drafting to fill your lineup. Not that that's what Don wanted to do. I think Don saw certain values and was just like, well, I'm going to do this here. But again, he ended up with a running back, then a wide receiver, then a tight end, and then a quarterback. And like, I hate when teams turn out that way. You know?
Yeah, because then you're just like, oh, fuck. Because everyone else around you isn't doing that. So a lot of the positions are gone. And
Yeah,
you're looking off like onto the third tier of definitely wide receiver, possibly running back, like maybe second tier for running back since it's like the gaps are a little bigger. But you're in some hot water there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with my teams, with both of them here, I basically did the same thing like on both teams where I went wide receiver heavy early.
I also just want to mention you played the swing, which is the first pick and the 12th pick.
Yeah,
So
I had the swing on both ends. So it kind of I really want, like, I don't know, for some reason this year I've very much enjoyed working the swing, whether it's the first or the 12th pick, or, you know, first and 10th if you're in a 10 team, that sort of thing. But I ended up going wide receiver heavy early on both teams. In the one I took Antonio Brown, Alshon Jeffrey, and T.Y. Hilton. In the next one I took Keenan Allen, Jordy Nelson, and Eric Decker right off the bat. And then in both I kind of stockpiled a lot of running backs in the middle rounds, built up a little bit more wide receiver depth, and then kind of just, you know, winged it on tight end and quarterback.
Which you can totally do. People seem to forget that. Like, you can just wait on quarterback and tight end like we always preach.
So the one team, I was actually very disappointed because my entire thing was that I wanted to end up with Antonio Gates or better at tight end. And I missed him by 2 picks. I'm like, Antonio Gates was like, this is the last guy I'm like comfortable with as like, this is my starting tight end going into the season. I ended up with Dwayne Allen. That was kind of like my strategy not really working out in this case, where I wanted to be slightly better at tight end. And then there was another situation actually a couple rounds earlier where in the 10th round, I would have been very willing to take any of Travis Kelce, Gary Barnidge, and Julius Thomas. Went with 5, 4, and then 3 picks before me. So like, that's the kind of situation where like I was really hoping that you know, one of those guys was going to fall to me, and there was sort of a mini run on tight ends, and it didn't really end up happening. But ideally, I think this year I'm hitting a tight end in somewhere in that 8th to 10th round spot, where you're looking at guys like, you know, maybe Kobe Fleener falls there, but really Julius Thomas and Gary Barnidge are the 2 guys in that 8th and 9th round sort of area.
Throwing Gates too.
Right. Yeah. Gates is probably up there as well, where like those are kind of the guys I'm really looking at, like, all right, I'm cool with ending up with this guy here. After that, I'm kind of spinning the wheel. And as much as we've talked about spinning the wheel in the past, I kind of want to stay away from spinning the wheel this year, just because I think guys like Thomas and Barnidge are so much more of sure things than any of the guys that I'm spinning the wheel on, you know? It's like I can get these guys a couple rounds earlier and just get a guy that, like, I don't know, because like spinning the wheel is fine and like it can work, but you have to be like very active and like really be willing to like fuck around with the waiver wire, you know? Whereas like there's certainly some sort of merit to like having a Thomas or having a Barnidge and knowing like, I've got this 100 to 120 targets, I've got this touchdown volume. Like, this is probably fine, barring injury.
And to your point, like tight end has actually gotten like it's deep and it kind of got more solid for the top 10. So if you're in a 10-team league, 12-team league, you can kind of get that guy and not have to play the wheel as we often do. So there's less of a gamble now, and you can kind of get away with taking a late guy who's probably going to turn out like Julius Thomas, Gary Barnidge. They're going tight end 8 and 9. So you can definitely wait, and they're going like you said when you would take them 8th round, 9th round, 10th round.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also like kind of willing this year to go like Jordan Reed in the 4th or Greg Olsen in the 5th. But like in this case, Reed went in the 3rd and Olsen went in the 4th. So like just didn't happen, you know. I do want to point out though that I think both of my teams are illustrations of the fact that like if you wait a little bit on running back and then load up on them in the middle rounds, you can kind of like weasel your way into like pretty solid running back squads. Because I ended up on one team. Again, I didn't take a running back till the 4th round on either team. And I ended up one team, I had Dion Lewis, Carlos Hyde, Frank Gore, Emil Abdul-Bilal Powell as my running back core, and also Jerick McKinnon. So like there's a lot of flexibility there and guys with some upside that I like. And then on the other one, I ended up with CJ Anderson, Jeremy Langford, D'Angelo Williams, DeAndre Washington, and Spencer Ware. So like, again, guys with some upside that I like, but also guys who, you know, like I'm comfortable going into the season with Anderson, Langford, and Williams the first couple of weeks. You know, like that's fine with me. I'm comfortable going in Lewis, Hyde, Gore is a little bit more shaky, I think. But I don't know. Anyway. I don't know. I think it's both like I don't think I ended up terribly with these teams, and I think it's all like a good exercise to kind of see what you can do. That's another thing I just want to mention briefly is the idea that like, and I know like some people who I talk to, they're like, oh, dude, when I do mocks, I end up with these guys every time. I'm like,
don't do that.
Then why the fuck are you mocking? Like, if you know you're going to get those guys every time, like use mock drafts to try out different strategies. Go running back early and see how see how you like how you see if you like how your team ends up. Jeez, man. You know, like try taking Gronk on the turn of the 1st and 2nd round, you know, like do weird things and just kind of look at it and be like, well, because of this, my team sucks over here. I'm not okay with that. Or like, when I did this, my team ended up okay. Maybe I should try it a couple more times, see if my team still ends up okay or if this was just a product of this draft. Use mocks to try out different strategies. Like don't do the same thing every single time in a mock draft.
I was actually telling Ed, I think it was yesterday, I was like, I'm getting like the mock brain where you're just like, you're getting the same guys over and over again. You get way too fucking comfortable. And then if one thing happens in your draft, because they're all different, people are going to take different people at whatever point in the draft, it's going to fuck you up because you're going to be confused and you're not going to know what to do. So you want to have some backup plans. You want to have some other guys you like. Don't get too tied to anybody, but know that like, that being said, you still got to know the guys you like, who you want to reach on, who you can wait for, stuff like that. But definitely don't get too accustomed to just like, oh, I get these guys all the time. That's fucking sweet. I'm set for my draft. You're definitely not. You got to try some new shit. Like you're not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something to keep in mind as you're going through and doing these mock drafts leading up to the draft. All right, man. You got any other thoughts, or should we wrap it up for tonight?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. That was fun.
Right. Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. All right, guys. So as I said, we've got our draft guide coming out this weekend. If you're signed up for our email list, you'll receive that in your email, free of charge. It's a wonderful little resource. You can read through it. Drafts are starting up this weekend, really. This is like the first weekend. So if you guys do have any drafts this weekend, good luck in them. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions going forward. We love getting questions from you guys, and thank you to those of you who have been sending them in. I know we haven't answered a ton on the podcast. We've mostly just been, sending out individual email responses to everyone. But going forward, we will, have some on the podcast. And if you do have questions, send them in. Hit us up on Twitter. Whatever you want to do. we love, you know, talking to you guys, and we love getting to know the situations in your leagues, because they're all different and they're all interesting. Yeah, with that being said, thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back at it next week. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about. Probably some specific positional rankings as we go in. We'll really start getting into the nitty gritty of debating which guys we like, which guys we don't like, going into this season. So, yeah, with that being said, see you guys next time.